Wednesday today, it's Friday, but this is a special broadcast here on the new WPVM LP in Asheville, North Carolina. You can also listen online at WPVMFM.org and watch on WPVM's Facebook page. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and each week we focus on different things happening in the Asheville theater scene, as well as on positive news and information about people and organizations in the Asheville area. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce my first guest, and he is Dillon Giles, who's an actor in the Asheville area. And Dillon, you can wave to all your fans and friends in Facebook world. Okay, and hopefully a couple people are watching. And Dillon, as I like how he describes it, he's a semi-professional actor, singer, and dancer. Why do you call it semi-professional?
Well, I haven't gotten any true professional gigs that would, be able to support a life so much, but I do get paid gigs occasionally that, just extra income, but it's still enough to give you, semi-professional credits and put on a resume that way.
Okay. He's a singer and dancer, also hails from Cape Canaveral, Florida. In his spare time, he can been with friends, playing video games, watching some of his 1,500 VHS collection, until recently doing a cappella music. He's 24-year-old and hopes to find sometime this year to make his way into truly professional acting scene. And Dillon, the question I ask guests, and I'm curious about it with you, is you mentioned off the air you started acting when you were 5?
Yeah, 4 or 5 when I got into kindergarten.
Okay. Do you remember your first role?
Yes, I was the ringmaster in the ABC Circus.
Okay. At the ABC Circus?
Yeah, it was just a small little show where basically I stood up in front in like a cape and like a little ringmaster outfit, and I was the only person that had lines, and I said like A's for the amazing acrobats, and 2 kids came on and did like tumbles and stuff, and then B's bouncing bears.
He still remembers it.
Yeah, it was fun.
Now the question is, was there a videotape of this?
No, there was not.
Because I want to listen to this idea. I don't know if you've heard it before, but what I want everybody to do as a fundraiser, maybe for ACT or some other theater, is everybody would do their first role. They do it 5 minutes. Wouldn't that be cool?
That'd be great.
That you would do 5 years old. I spoke to our other guest outside, Rachel. She'd do her first role was in high school, but I think that'd be a lot of fun. And you actually have a record of it.
And there'd be a lot of variety. Right. Some people started super early. Some people didn't start till they were 30. So
but don't you think people would like that?
Yeah, I think it'd be great. Good little fundraiser.
So 5 years old, that was your first role. Mm-hmm. Where'd you go from there?
I did a couple little things. Work at my church at the time. I did the Charlie Brown Christmas as Charlie Brown, and then I took a little break for a little bit after 6th grade, and then at the end of 8th grade, I started acting again as Aladdin in Aladdin Jr. And then when I hit high school, I really started doing it. I had a very large theater program at my high school. We had, a full state-of-the-art sound system and, a whole fly system. It was like a professional theater, but usually for the area, and we used it. So we did stuff like, I was Captain Hook and Peter Pan, Lumiere and Beauty and the Beast. I got to do Noises Off at a very young age as the lead, Gary. So what a lot of great shows, and that really kept me going. And then I probably took 6 months off when I graduated, and then got into community theater in the area there. A big playhouse called Cocoa Village Playhouse, and I got to be Tony in West Side Story, and Perchick and Fiddler on the Roof. I got to be in the quartet in My Fair Lady. A lot of different front roles like that, and help out with the set still and do backstage stuff. So it was a good time.
Now, a lot of the stuff you do then seems to be in musical theater.
It is, yeah. I used to do straight shows in high school. I've taken a quick break. I'm starting to get in some more this year, to get in some just acting, but I like the aspect of musical theater. There's so much you got to be able to do. You got to be able to dance, sing, and act, and do it all at once, and keep your breath, and put on this character, and I find it a lot of fun.
Reminds me of something I did for our mutual friend Jerry Crouch. Years ago, I used to run something called Business Things Broadway. Okay. And so I'm not an actor, not a performer. So it was one thing, Dillon, to sing a song. Guys had to get together to sing a song. And the day before the show, he then taught us choreography, So in one day, so we're all running into each other and crashing into each other. I give you so much credit, like you said, that to not only sing and dance and act, but then to dance, at the same time, it comes all together. But you can do it.
Yeah, I can. It's a pretty rewarding feeling being able to do it, especially when you get it right for that first time in a rehearsal, and it just the feeling overwhelms you. Like, we did it, and then from there it's just perfecting it and really making it look exactly like you want the audience to see.
Out of all the roles you have, do you have a favorite, or some of your favorites?
Yeah, I've actually got like 2 or 3. Tony in West Side is such a classic role, and I was really privileged to be able to do it when I was like 19, with an actual cast that was all age appropriate. So everyone was between the ages of like 16 and 23. It was great. And then I was, for the first time ever, they did it in Florida in community theater, was Hunchback of Notre Dame. I got to be Quasimodo.
Wow.
Which is an insane role, incredible music, and just a lot of fun. And then I got to be Carl the Giant in Big Fish, which I knew how to stilt walk.
Yeah.
So I was on 6-foot stilts and had to dance in stilts in the show.
Singing also?
Singing, dancing, the whole 9 yards in stilts. So that was a lot of fun.
It's funny, you mentioned Hunchback of Notre Dame. Nobody's done it here.
No, it's a really, really big show.
Yeah.
It's between the choir, the cast, the staff to run it. Usually it's 100+ people. So most of the theaters around here, they're great and they have the talent, but the space available is really the problem, That some of the stages it's hard to fit, even backstage, a 40-person choir and then a 50-person cast and a 20-person crew. It's just a lot of people.
So there's no junior version of Hunchback?
Not that I've heard of.
Wow, because I'd love to see it, because one of the great things I like seeing is when I don't see stuff often, so when we did Hands on a Hard Body, it was just great because I didn't know the show, and that was really...
What an amazing show.
Wasn't it, though?
I love it. The harmonies are so beautiful, and just the story, it's so unknown.
Yeah.
And that's what I really think was great about it.
Well,
a lot of people do the fun, the movie musical,
right.
but no one does the obscure musical.
Well, I may have told the story, but my wife was a little disappointed that she thought I was the hard body. So we get to...
You weren't?
Exactly.
Oh, no.
You missed it. No, one of the things I loved about your role in that is that I love when you play straight, very heavy dramatic roles, and you were so over the top in that, but it was great though. Did you have fun with it?
Oh yeah, it was a lot of fun. You don't often get to be the sleazeball car dealer, so it was fun to give it a shot, see what it's like.
You were the best though.
Thank you.
No, but it's just so much fun though to watch. The so in terms of you're doing mostly musicals, and we'll kind of fast forward a little bit to talk about the show you're in right now. And again, I think it's great because nobody's done it for at least 10 years in Asheville.
Yeah.
And that show is what?
The Fantastics, over at Asheville Community Theater. Really just a great show. It was the longest running show on Broadway for 40 years or something like that. It finally went off in 2002 and they were able to change some stuff, but it ran for an extremely long time. And I think it's just because of the story of it. It's not your typical love story, but it's got love story aspects, but then it has, real world applications of, sometimes you got to go through some tough times to figure out, is this love? Can I be with this person? And it's, I don't know, and great music too. It's a very music heavy show.
And the Reader's Digest version of the story, for the people who don't know, is what?
Essentially, there is a boy and girl who are falling in love, and their parents build a wall in between them, and then pretend to feud, because children always disobey their parents. So they say, no, you can't fall in love, so that they will fall in love. And then they hire the character, I am El Gallo, who's the narrator and the bandit. They hire him to come in and kidnap the girl so the boy can defeat me and be the hero in her eyes. And then everything takes a couple twists and turns in Act 2. And in the end, everything settles up all right. But it takes you down like a real path for a little while there, showing you. You can get there in the end, but it's not all glitter and sunshine like they make it out to be.
Now, is that typecasting you as the bandit?
I think so. Yes, they're afraid I'm going to take everyone's heart away or something. Who knows?
and people can see it on Facebook Live, but for the benefit of people who might be listening, you have a slightly different look that you have now.
I do. I've cut my hair short, and then I've cut most of my beard off and left it this little goatee that I actually twist up the corners of the mustache and pull it down into a point and make it a little darker. Very, kind of bandity and Antonio Banderas look is what we're going for.
But we're not going to keep that look?
Probably not. I'm hoping after this I might shave it or try to just grow the rest of the beard back out, depending on, what I end up doing next.
Because I've never seen you with a beard, I don't think.
I usually keep it, but for shows I tend to shave it. I was gonna keep it, but then for Wizard of Oz I had to shave it because I had to put all the makeup on and young and footloose, so I couldn't do it then.
Yeah, you're talking about some of the other great roles, but still keeping on Fantastics. So I think, to overuse the expression, but you have a fantastic cast in that.
Oh,
and talk a little bit about who's in that with you.
So I'm El Gallo, but then we have Alex Daly, who has done stuff here in the past. He was in Red and Peter and the Starcatcher back in the day, and he's playing Matt, the boy. And then we have Emily Brookshire is playing Louisa, beautifully talented T.C. Robertson student, who is just killing a beautiful soprano voice. And then we have the fathers, Stan Reilly and Brian. I cannot remember Brian's last name. And then we have, actually, in the normal cast, it's one mute, but Mark went ahead and cast 6 mutes so we could help fill out the stage. And they're fantastic. We've got Lucas York, and Mia Sander, Kaylee Lorenzen, Marianne Heinen, Carson Fox, Lindsay Wheeler. And then we have the comedic part of the show is actually Daniel Gainey and Jack Heinen are the actors that I hired to come help me with my abduction. So they have great comedic parts in the show that you don't want to miss.
And one of the things I think that's to Act's credit and also Mark Jones is that when you see a show there, you'll see some people that you haven't seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these names, I know most of the local actors, but it's kind of fun. I'll be seeing some people I haven't seen elsewhere. Just
Yeah.
like with you, it was so exciting when I saw Footloose. You know, who is this Dillon Giles? You know, nobody ever heard it. That was your first role in this
That
area?
was my first role in the area. I'd auditioned for a couple shows, but at the time when I auditioned for them, I was doing a lot of a cappella music and barbershop stuff in the area and wasn't leaving much time for rehearsal. So I was like, I can rehearse for 2 days a week. And they were like, no, we need you all week. I was like, okay, I'll come back later.
So you had mentioned that too. So in addition to your acting, you'd done a cappella before?
I have, actually, since my freshman year of high school, I've been in a cappella groups. I started just as a tenor and a baritone in a cappella groups back in high school. And then in my junior year, I learned how to beatbox, do vocal percussion. And then once I graduated, I helped start a group as assistant director, beatboxer, and bass for a child's group, or young adults group, usually age like 14 to 20, out of our theater, called Fermata Stars, and that was fun. And then when I came up here, I joined a group called Shaboom that does doo-wop music as their tenor and beatboxer. And then I just recently was in Acapella Brewing, which is like a contemporary acapella group, and I sang everything from alto down to bass and beatboxed for them. I just recently left that so I could focus more on theater.
So it's surprising when I was speaking to a barbershop quartet group, and they performed for me actually today. They mentioned that they had known you because you were with them for, that was the name of the group is?
Oh, they were Pod A.
Pod A, yeah.
For the Valentines. Yeah, I was part of the barbershop choir that's around here that meets
Right.
on Tuesdays over in West Asheville. And I did that for a little bit to get into the area, and I wanted to do some singing before I actually planted my roots out and tried to get into some bigger stuff. And it was a really great time. If I had more time, I'd probably still go back and do it. But Tuesdays tend to be my only night off.
Well, you're talking about your only night off in terms of in your spare time.
Mm-hmm.
That I was amazed at Dillon, not only you but other actors in the area. That do you also have like roller skates? Is that roller skates? Is that part of the criteria to go from one thing to the next?
Yeah.
You have to like how many? Do you ever do? You sometimes do more than one thing at a time. Is that correct?
I do. Last year, actually, most of my shows overlapped. While I was running one show on the weekends, I was rehearsing another show during the week. And then usually when I finished the one show, that next week was going into Tech Week for the show I was about to open. And then I would start rehearsing the next show while I opened that show.
Have you ever done 3 at once? Rehearsing?
I've done 2 at once this past year, and I did a small cabaret type event with some people from ACT. I was Link Larkin in a hairspray event that we did for a local lawyer group from Boston that came into a hotel. And so we did it was like a one-night cabaret thing, but I had to do rehearsals for that along with the 2 shows on the
And you
night.
did it some other place. I saw it. I think it was a
Yes, we...
a Diner Wortham or some place.
Yes, they were doing I think it was just a big entertainment in the area festival type thing, and they asked us to come in and do something for ACT. So since we had just done it and that was the only time we did it, they had us come in and review it, and we performed one of the songs we did for that night at the event. It was a lot of fun.
It's just so cool. I mean, you're doing this, two shows, you're auditioning for others, or you have auditioned for others.
Yes.
Then you're working also?
I do. I work full-time, 7 to 4, Monday through Friday, building doors over at Jennings Builder Supply and Hardware over in Fletcher.
How'd you get into building doors?
I used to do, actually, worked for a cabinet place back in Florida that my father used to work at. And then when I came up here, I was in the restaurant industry like I had been for a couple years and was ready to get out of it. It just doesn't work so well with theater because everyone needs you to work at night.
Right.
So my father actually works at the company as the lead cabinet installer. So you're not allowed to work with your family, but you're allowed to work in the same company. So they needed someone to come in and learn how to build doors. And since then, everyone else that had been working there has kind of dropped off, and I've stayed on as the only one still doing it. That and my boss.
So the nice thing about it, that you can do it with your theater stuff, but I guess the bad thing is, it doesn't seem like you got much sleep.
No, not really. Not really. I usually sleep from about 12 o'clock till 6:30 every day. So 6.5 hours a night is usually what I average. Try to sleep in on Saturday mornings. Other than that, yeah, that's about all I do.
Well, then you're also doing, you were telling me off the air, you also are an Uber driver at times.
I am. I'm registered to be an Uber driver. I did it a little bit at the end of last year. I haven't yet this year because I've been trying to catch up on sleep a little bit before, and I've been doing the Fantastics and auditioning for shows this week and next week and really getting the season prepared. So I haven't had a lot of time to do it.
But the fun thing you were telling me is that sometimes you get lucky, and when you're going out to a play, you'll pick up a couple of drives.
I will. When I was doing Oliver at Heart, I did it a lot. I get off work at 4, and usually rehearsals didn't start till about 6:30. So I would spend about an hour and a half just Ubering around town, getting people where they need to go, making some extra money, and then I would put in my destination on Uber that I was going somewhere, and it would let me only pick up people that were heading in that direction. And I would, it usually ended up helping pay for my gas over there so that I didn't spend any money on that.
Well, it's also kind of interesting, Dillon, about you, is that it seems you're hitting almost every local theater.
I am.
And I've seen you at all of them. So ACT, you're at Parkway now. You mentioned for Oliver.
No, that was over at Heart. I'm doing auditions next week actually for hopefully Into the Woods and possibly Driving Miss Daisy or Murder on the Orient Express. They've got a bunch of shows going on there this year. I'm really interested in Into the Woods though.
But I'm interested in Driving Miss Daisy. You gonna play the old woman?
I was thinking about it. If they'll have me.
Yeah. So we don't typecast you.
Exactly. I'll do whatever.
No, but that's kind of cool because you were telling me you seem to like playing different roles.
I do. There's, it's fun to play the leading man, the handsome lover, or sometimes the little comedic sidekick, but it's fun to get a variety of roles. I've played dozens of different types of people in all of my acting career. I've been the bad guy, I've been the good guy, I've been the funny guy, the serious guy. I've played everything from, I think the youngest was a 16-year-old all the way up to Oliver. Technically, that guy's somewhere in his 60s and 70s when I played Mr. Bumble. So I play all age range, and I'm usually willing to, my hair grows pretty quick, so I can grow it out or cut it off, and the beard goes and stays, and whatever I need to do usually to try to fit a role, I do what I can.
Do you have a preference as to what kind of role you like?
Oh, that's a good question. Not really. I like, there's some roles that I just enjoy because I enjoy them. Usually I aim for a bigger role. I do enjoy, because, I have the abilities to really get up there and take over a stage sometimes, people say. I like to get something that challenges me, really is my favorite. A challenging role. Like Quasimodo was challenging because it was the whole show, he has to sing high B's and high B flats, and it's vocally commanding, but then other ones are more physically demanding, like Ren and Footloose. Required a lot more dancing, and I'm not a dancer, but I move well. So I like to push my limit and try to learn new stuff, if I can add some more tricks to my basket of goodies.
Well, talking about tricks, I'll kind of pick your brain a little bit, and that's the fact that as an actor, you have to be able to memorize stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Are you good at that?
I am. I usually so I have like a partially photographic memory. Like I can usually, I think for Fantastics it took me probably 3 or 4 days to memorize the script, realistically, to just sit down and really look at it. The music I memorize really easily. I usually just listen to it, and if I go to a rehearsal and they're teaching me, I'll record it and then listen to it, and after a couple times it usually sticks in, and then I just got to make sure I have the lyrics. But yeah, I've always been a really quick memorizer as far as scripts and everything goes.
When
it just comes easy.
Memorize, you're teaching me a little bit here, and other people may be seeing this. Do you like reading with somebody?
Sometimes. Usually when I'm learning, I like to do it by myself. I sit there and I'll read through my lines and just read like a whole page, and then I'll put the book away and read the page and make sure that I did it, and look back at it, and then do it. And I'll do that a couple times, and then I'll read the next page, and then I'll add those pages together. And then after I've done that for a little bit and gotten most of it what I think is ready, I'll have someone come and help me my girlfriend Audrey or my mother or, you know, a friend from work or in the theater community, I'll have someone be like, hey, can you just sit with me and help me do these 2 pages? I don't think I have the lines. But usually starting out, I like to do it by myself.
Because some people tell me that a few people they don't like reading with somebody else, or you know they just like doing it themselves, or something.
It's pretty helpful in the later stages, I think, to work with someone. That way you can make sure you have your cues right. That's the hardest part about doing it by yourself is sometimes you don't get your cue lines. But I know people that do that. They memorize the other person's cue lines and theirs. But I've learned it's just easier to, I don't know, I always think of it as just like an actual conversation you're having. And just trying to connect the dots of, well, what would you logically say to that? And then put the line in there.
It's something you did at the very beginning of this show kind of amazed me, is that you remember dialogue you had as a 5-year-old, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Does that ever happen to you? You know, you're just kind of doing something, and then all of a sudden you remember another show.
Occasionally I'll be, at my job, I tend to be just sitting there and listening to music and stuff. And sometimes I'll hear something that reminds me of a song I sang in a show 4 years ago, and then I'll be like, oh, that's a great song, and I'll sing a little bit of it, and then like, you know, let's listen to it, and pull it up and listen, and sometimes I remember random lines that just for some reason we got humor of when we were in a cast together, like in Rent, there were always something funny that just caught us off guard, and I just remember moments like that.
Well, something you told me is kind of good, I guess, when it happens, is you're going to be in a show, or you were in a show where you had the same role twice. You told me, what show was that?
I did Wizard of Oz.
Oh, yeah.
And I was the Scarecrow twice. And I just got cast in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat over at Hart, directed by Mark Jones. And I got cast as Judah, who sings the Benjamin Calypso Jamaican solo, which when I was in high school in my sophomore year, I got the same exact role. Doing the Benjamin Calypso solo and some ensemble work and stuff. So it's fun to do it again.
That makes it a little easier, though?
A little easier. Usually I can still remember most of the lyrics, so I just need to refresh them. And then it's also different because, you know, 10th grade Dillon doesn't think quite as in-depth as 24-year-old Dillon does now. So it gives you a new take on the character, usually, which is nice.
Would be interesting is if you ever did a show and then do a different part in the show.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Or I once saw, you've never done it, but like Odd Couple, for example.
Yeah.
Where I imagine very challenging. They played both roles. Have you ever heard of that?
I have heard of shows like that. I think it'd be really fun to do a show like that. I've always been interested in it.
Well, I was a little disappointed. I was just in they had a Christmas pageant at one of the churches, you know, tell the story of Christ. I was disappointed because I really wanted to play the baby Jesus, but they didn't let me have it, you know. No, I did.
There were too many lines to memorize.
Exactly. But so instead of typecast, I was a rabbi. You know.
Okay.
But it was just, it's fun. But yeah, I can do a few lines. You know, anything above a few lines tends to be a little tough for me. But that's bad on my part, Dylan. I guess I'll ask you for advice. Is that I say that to myself, and I shouldn't say that to myself. You know, I should just say I can be good at it, or I can work at it, rather than saying if you say you're bad at something, you're going to be bad at something.
Exactly. Whenever I go into an audition, a lot of people like to think, well, I'm not even going to get this. Look at the room full of people or something like that. And I never think that way to myself. I don't, you know, you also don't want to come in and be like, this is my role. But, you know, I come in confident. Like, I know of my abilities, and I know I could get this role. I'd like to. I could also get this role or this role or this role. And you just got to be able to look at that and, you know, when you go in, know what you're looking for and what you're willing to accept. So that, you know, when someone does call, you don't catch yourself off the guard like, oh, no. Am I going to say yeah? Am I going to say no? So I like to already know what I'm going for and what I would like to do and be very prepared, but also very open-minded with what can happen.
Do you like auditioning?
No.
Oh, really?
No,
Okay.
auditioning is actually my least favorite part of the acting process. I've just never... I've gotten a lot better at it in the past couple years, but I used to be really bad when I didn't know as much of the shows at, like, picking a song that was in the style or matched the show. I was really bad at it for a long time. So I would just, you know, I had one song and I would sing one song and that's it. And I would do it for everything. So now that I know a lot more and I've expanded my knowledge of musical theater, I tend to find it a lot easier to pick stuff to audition with. And I have monologues, you know, from Fantastics and stuff like that. So I like it better, but it's still not my favorite.
How do you prepare for it?
I'm actually a big procrastinator, so normally I don't prepare for it until probably the week of auditions. But usually I pick a song, I find the cut that I want of it, and I make sure I have that part memorized. And then, and if I need a monologue, I just pick a monologue. Right now I have a bunch to pick up since I have 6 in the Fantastics. and then I just kind of I don't put too much stress on it really.
Are these are straight monologues you're doing as opposed to singing?
Yes. I have a couple songs in Fantastics, a couple by myself, and then a couple duets and stuff. But monologues, I think I have 5 or 6 in the show that I do as the narrator to keep the story going on, and they're done kind of in a prose, like a verse form. So it's nice, but you also don't want to do them like a poem. You want to read them like they're your lines. So it's interesting to be able to work with that and really get to work with Mark on it and really break it down.
Reminds me of a recent experience I had. First time I ever went for an audition for a funny thing happened on the way to the forum.
Okay.
Didn't get the part, fortunately. It wouldn't have been a good part for me. And it was just a talking part. But
Yeah.
do you know the show? And they're doing it right now at
I know a little bit about it.
They're doing it at Hendersonville Community Theater. But mine was a talking role, but I said, could I sing a song? And the guy said, go ahead. So I even sang a song, Tequila. I still remember the line. I can still remember that. But that's about my speed, Dillon, you know.
I love it.
So at least I hope we got a kick out of that. But, you know, to do anything beyond that would have been much. Talk about now, we're finishing, Fantastics, we're not finishing. We're in our, second week is it?
This is the second weekend. Tonight is actually the first night of our second weekend.
Okay, I'm anxious. I'm looking forward to it. I'm seeing it Sunday.
Very nice.
No, actually tomorrow night. Excuse me.
Awesome.
Tomorrow night. So looking forward to it. How many weeks does it run?
We have, after this weekend, we have 2 more weekends. Next weekend and the following, we have a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday show at 7:30 and a Sunday show at 2:30.
Yeah, that's kind of nice that compared with our second guest, Rachel is coming on board in a little bit, and she's directing a show that only has 2-week run. You know, so that's a short run.
There are a lot of the theaters around here do 2 or 3 week runs. I've realized, depending on the size of the show or where it's at. ACT is one of the few ones that almost always does a 4-weekend run.
Do you prefer it?
I like it. I like a good 4-week run. Back in Florida, I did a lot of shows that they actually had more shows. We would do a Thursday, a Friday, 2 Saturdays, and a Sunday, and they would usually do 4 weekends. So it prepares you for real theater, because in the real world, you know, it can be 7 or 8 days a week.
I was going to say, that's pretty impressive. That was community theater. It was doing that many shows. That, for community theater, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So after we finish up with Fantastics, let's just summarize some of the other kinds of things both you'll be in and you're going to be looking to do maybe. Or let's talk about things you have coming up.
I was actually just cast in Little Women at ACT as Brooke, so that'll be fun. That's going to be, that runs, I think, end of May into the middle of April.
By the way, do you ever give yourself a break?
Not really. No, I try to overlap them as best I can. I really don't enjoy when I'm not in the theater. That month off that I had this past year, I hated it. I didn't know what to do. I was just sitting at home cleaning the house. I was like, well, I'm done cleaning the house for the 5th time. What do I do now?
So Little Women.
Little Women, and then I have Joseph coming up in the summer over at Hart. And then I also got cast in Diary of Anne Frank over at Hart. I believe that's in September or August, sometime around then.
Well, I look forward to that show in particular, or several of the shows you mentioned, because that one's not a musical. You know,
They're not. Little Women and
I was gonna
Diary
say
of
that,
Frank
yeah.
are both straight shows.
I don't think I ever saw a Diary of Anne Frank the musical. I don't think
it is.
It's almost like the producers, you know, a version of that. Did you ever do the producers?
I have not. It's no one around me has done it while I'm around. So
It's a shame because just before you came here, Jerry did it.
that's
at
what I heard a
ACT.
couple years ago. That would have been a really fun one to do. What a great show.
And if ever there was a role for you, that would have been the role.
Oh yeah.
Do you have any dream roles you want to do?
Dream roles. Oof. I'd love to be Edward Bloom in Big Fish, which is it was a movie they did with.
Right, I remember Albert Finney.
Yeah, it was a really good show.
There's a show version of that?
There is. It's actually really good. I enjoyed it. Norbert Leo Butz did it on Broadway.
Okay, well, sure.
I'd love to do The Last 5 Years as Jamie. That's that musical. They just did a movie of it a couple years ago with Anna Kendrick and Jeremy Jordan. But it's been on Broadway. Norbert Leo Butz originated that one too, and it was on.
And by the way, you mentioned him, but I can see that's your kind of.
Yeah, he can be the leading handsome guy, but he also does really good character work.
Phenomenal, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of shows like that. I'd love to do Chicago sometime as Billy Flynn.
Oh, you haven't done Chicago?
Not yet.
They did. ACT did it. You know,
a couple years ago. That'd be
too.
fun. Jekyll and Hyde, Sweeney Todd. There's a lot of good shows that I really have dreams for doing. Shrek.
Jekyll and Hyde. Nobody's done in this area, I don't think.
I think someone did it like 10 years ago.
It's
I
funny.
think they did it at Heart. They might have like 10, 12 years ago.
Because I had Paul Gerber on in another show, and that's his dream role. He
Oh
wants
yes,
to do it.
he wants to do it really bad.
Yeah.
We've talked about it.
Oh, really? That'd be great, though. But that'd be a great show to do.
Yeah,
then,
that'd
or
be, and
something.
everyone loves Sweeney Todd. That's a good one. I don't know. I've got a lot of. I'd love to be Shrek in Shrek at some point. There's a lot of really good shows that I want to do. I'd also really like older shows like Bye Bye Birdie and Carousel and just stuff of that nature. I'd really like to do, and the obscure ones like Sideshow and stuff.
It's cool, but as you mentioned, I can just see Dillon Giles being in, with all these shows. And what's really a compliment again to you, Dillon, I think, is that every time I see you, you're different, even though they're kind of musical, and oftentimes comic musical. I've seen you in a bit, or you're playing a villain now in this one. They're all kind of different roles, so it's, I guess what you're trying to do, too, not be typecast as a certain kind of character,
exactly.
every role. So, anyway, Dillon, we look forward to seeing you tomorrow night at ACT
in
the Fantastics. And that'll run for, you said, 2 more weeks after this weekend? 2
more weeks after this weekend, yes.
Okay, and do you remember, it's Asheville, if people want to get tickets,
I
the
believe
website?
it's AshevilleCommunityTheater.org.
And I think it is, theater spelled the right way, is that correct?
Yes.
With re.org.
I believe so.
Anyway, thanks, Dillon, for being my guest this first half hour on the Blainesworld Show.
Thank you for having me on.
And we'll see you tomorrow night, buddy.
Awesome. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks again. Okay, and as Dillon's working his way out of the studio, I should mention that support for this show and WPVM is underwritten by the Grill Movie House, Asheville's alternative cinema. The Grill Movie House is an independent, locally owned 3-screen cinema in downtown Asheville. For current features, visit the Grill website at grillmoviehouse.com or the Grill social media pages. Also, as our next guest is working our way into the studio, I'll mention 2 other upcoming guests, or 2 other upcoming shows in the Asheville area. And one is a real fun show, Giles Saves the Day. And that's adapted by Margaret Rather, and it's based on the stories of P.G. Woodhouse, extended through March the 1st at North Carolina Stage. And I think I need the next guest to come in, so I'm going to hold on. Yeah, I think we got Rachel coming in. And as our next guest works her way into the studio, I should mention that on Saturday, February 15th, on Saturday night, at a marquee comedy production presents it's probably presents the Mills River Brewing Company, a night of comedy featuring Jason Shoulder, who's been a guest on this show, and some of the local comedians. That'll be Saturday night at the Mills River Brewery. It's next my pleasure, as she puts on her headset, to introduce my second guest of the show today. And this is somebody I've seen in local theater for quite some time. But this is Rachel McCrain. And Rachel, welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you can wave to all your fans and friends in Facebook world. Okay, and Rachel McCrain is the reason we had her come on board. She's a director of a show that's already opened. It's Goodnight Troublemaker, and that's going to be at BB Theater. Is that
Yes, sir.
correct? And we should mention that Rachel is an Asheville native. Really? Asheville, born and raised in Asheville?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, an honor. Wow.
Right.
How many people are born and raised in Asheville? The percentage is very.
I don't know, but apparently we don't exist. We're a myth, and I see a bunch of people that I know that I've grown up with here, but I guess we know all the secret places to hang out where nobody knows.
No, but what's cool about you is that you actually stayed here then, because a lot of people seem to be born in Asheville, then they move, but sometimes they come back.
Most people end up coming back.
Okay.
It's a neat little phenomenon that happens where we all go, I'm gonna get out of Asheville and move on, and then we don't.
Or come back.
Or we do, but then we come right back.
Anyway, I've seen Rachel over the last 10 years on a bunch of things. You name the local theater, she's been involved with Montford Park Players, Adam Cara, Magnetic, Sublime, Mount Art Theater, Attic Salt, NC Stage Company. Recent things she's been involved in, My Crazy My Love, and Crap's Last Taste, Tape and Zoo's Story with Sublime, God of Hell and Government Inspector with Adam Cara, Full of Sparrow, and Stupid, we won't say Stupid Effing Bird,
There you go.
with Mount Art and Christmas Carol, and stuff at Montford Park. Let me ask you this, Rachel. Do you remember the very first thing you were ever in?
Well, I did some things when I was little, but the first real actual show that I was in was The Music Man. I played Ethel Toffelmeyer, the player piano player.
And what was that? Where was that?
That was with AC Reynolds High School, and we did that show at the Cane Creek Middle School auditorium.
Okay, and the thing I asked you off the air is, to the best of your knowledge, was there a videotape of that?
I don't believe so. I
Okay,
don't think so.
and so what I want you to think about, as I mentioned, with all your contacts and all the theaters you've been involved in, is I think we should have you do that role again. You know, we should have this, you and everybody else, their very first role as a fundraiser, you know, and it can live, you know. Do you remember
Sure,
the, do you remember the part?
Very vaguely.
Well, it's interesting because I find this interesting about you, Rachel, is that I know you and I've seen you at every local theater, but you're not typically, is that correct, an actor at this point in time?
I do act, but no, most of the things that I've been doing here in Asheville are behind the scenes.
Okay, and I think people don't recognize kind of the importance of that. You know, they'll see a show and say, wow, give credit to the actors. But if you don't have people behind the scenes,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to have much of a show. And I'll give you I believe it was you, the last show at Sublime, you were the stage manager?
Yes, I was the assistant director and the stage manager, and I ran the sound and light boards.
And talk about that, because that kind of blew me away. I saw you, boy, were you working hard in that show. You know, you were doing like about everything, including, that was not an easy thing in terms of little small theater. There was a lot happening in that show,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that kept you busy?
Yeah, yes it did, and that was a fun experience. We had all kinds of different little elements to pull in and execute, and we did them all, but it was exciting getting there.
And I think the most exciting thing, I remember that, what was the show again?
That one was My Crazy My Love.
My Crazy My Love, and it was a crazy show, but
It was.
I really enjoyed it. But the best thing about it, and that's where I noticed you in particular, is the scene toward the end, and describe it if you would, since the show's not happening right now, but
The chaos moments?
yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of sound happening, a lot of different lights going on, and then there is a drop cloth on the floor, and Stephen, by the end of it, we pulled him out the back door on the drop cloth as in the show, the house was sucked into the frack void, in fact, and we just hauled Stephen out on a drop cloth through the back door.
And I thought that was so fantastic, though.
It looked great.
It really did. And, you know, I'd never seen anything like that before.
Right, yeah.
But then, and we're talking about Stephen Samuels, the, I guess, artistic director of the theater, and he was in that show. But I remember watching you at the end, too, that, boy, did you have a lot of work to do at the end of that show. There was, you know, stuff all over the place, and books, and, you know,
Yes.
that, you know,
Yes.
you told me contrast,
Paper.
contrast to the show you're currently in, where you got out relatively soon, that you were there for, you know, a good 15, 20 minutes afterward, if not longer.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a crazy kind of show.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a preference as to what you do? And those we'll talk about what you're doing in this current show, but you've been stage manager at a bunch of shows. Do you enjoy doing that?
I do. I really like it. I enjoy being an assistant stage manager a bit more, but I do enjoy the stage managing. It's a lot to keep track of, but it is a lot of fun. You get to watch a show happen from top to bottom. You are only the stage management is at every rehearsal and every performance, unless it's a small theater like this one, in which sometimes the director ends up also being the run crew. Otherwise, a lot of times what will happen is that the director will be done once the show opens, or some people won't come in until the show starts and start in, but a stage manager is there from the very first rehearsal to the very last performance, and that's a really cool experience to have, to watch a show from top to bottom form.
You said something interesting. You said you prefer being the assistant stage manager as opposed to the stage manager. What is that?
There's a lot less responsibility. While I enjoy the responsibility, it is a lot of fun sometimes to not have to deal with it. And I love to organize things, and that's what I do as an assistant stage manager, is just organize all of the props and costumes as much as possible for actors to have a smooth experience.
Because I read somewhere, it was an article, a very good article actually, that said that that's a great experience that all people should go through, especially actors, to be a stage manager, to see
Yes.
what it entails. because it's amazing, and I'm seeing this right now in a play I'm in at Magnetic, the hard work that the stage manager does,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't necessarily get credit, not that you're asking for it,
Mm-hmm.
but actors get the credit,
Mm-hmm.
but you have all these people behind the scenes
Mm-hmm.
doing all this work.
Yes,
You know,
it's very important.
had you in other shows, like in high school, were you a stage manager or in college?
Yes, yes, I have done those predominantly. The only show that I actually acted in college, was a John Crutchfield show. He was a professor up there at the time when I was in school, as well as Peter, who wrote this show that I'm directing now. We were both students of John's, technically, and so it's kind of fun and funny to do this show for his company now.
It's interesting.
His and Steve's company.
Yeah, and John was a guest a couple of weeks ago too. Very
Mhm.
talented guy too, but small world. So
Mhm.
that was the only time you acted in college?
Yes, the rest of the things I did were all some kind of stage management, directing, light or soundboard running, something of that nature, and then lots of classes.
Since I've been in Nashville, or you can give me the answer, have you done any acting in Nashville?
Yeah, yes, I have.
Since you graduated college?
Yes,
Where have you been in?
I was in Taming of the Shrew with Montford Park, Richard II, Taming of the Shrew, Christmas Carol, Coriolanus, Titus Andronicus.
Okay, bunch of stuff with Montfort.
Sure, and I've acted in all of those. I was going to be in Robin Hood, the first one, a couple of years ago in 2018, but I ended up with a herniated disc in my spine and couldn't move for 2 months.
I was going to say, and Robin Hood wouldn't have been a good play for you to be in.
Oh, it was so much fun. I was halfway through the rehearsal process when it happened,
No,
and I
I'm
was
saying,
having
but
a great time.
there's so much activity going on in
Oh, yes.
that play. Oh, bummer.
Yes.
So, well, we'll just have to get you in the third one. You know, I don't know
Yeah.
if Jeff and Rob are coming up with a third one, but that's something to look forward to. Well, let's fast forward a little bit. So,
Sure.
you went to college,
Mhm.
and you were a theater major,
Mhm.
and that was at
Appalachian State.
State. And so it was mostly behind the scenes
Mhm.
type thing. And was that your goal in theater, to be in that kind of role?
I wanted to do all of the things in theater. I didn't want to focus in just acting or just behind the scenes. I wanted to do all of them because I like all of them, and I feel very strongly that it's important to do all of the jobs in theater so you know what's going on with everyone. Most especially if you want to go into directing at all, you need to know what's going on with all of your elements, with everything that everybody, all of your designers, all of your stage managers, all of your actors are going to be doing and thinking and feeling because of what they're having to deal with. It's important for a director to have practical experience with that.
Now, you mentioned you did some directing in college, is that correct?
Yes, I took directing classes and did a couple of different shows, and I did direct here a little scene in a Brief Encounters that the Magnetic did a few years ago. And then Peter and I co-directed Government Inspector for Anam Cara.
Okay, I don't think I saw that one. But let's talk then to what you're doing right now. So one of the reasons we had you on board is that you're now, your first solo directing thing, I guess, after college. You're directing a play right now at the BB Theater.
Yes.
And that play is what?
It's called Goodnight Troublemaker. Peter Lundblad, a local, wrote that one, and he's my best friend. And it's about Voltaire the philosopher has discovered that 48 cups of coffee will keep you alive forever. 48 cups of coffee a day will keep you alive forever. And so there's a whole series of 4 eras of time in which we see Voltaire sort of play out his shenanigans.
Who is Voltaire in the play?
Miss Tippin.
Okay.
And then Corinne Metzger and Strother Stingley and Jennifer Robinson fill in the rest of the characters for us, and they're all so good. They're all so amazing.
I mean,
had a
it's
really good time directing them.
I mean, just a fantastic cast
They
that you
are.
put together for
Yeah.
this. So directing them, how long have you been at work on this?
We started the second week, I believe, of January, the 6th or 7th.
So that's people don't, I think, realize that at times. You know, it's just they see a show, and that's why I love theater so much, for the hard work people put into this. But you've been working on this for now 6 weeks, I guess.
Yeah, about
And-
a 6-week rehearsal process.
And then, not unfortunately, just the way it is, so you have a 2-week run, is that correct?
Yes, 6
And-
performances.
So let's see, tonight, getting confused on days, today's Friday, so you had opening night last night.
Yes.
How'd opening night go?
It went great. We had a good audience. It wasn't sold out and full all the way, but it wasn't a small audience either. So we had, and they were receptive. They liked it a lot. So it was just a lot of fun. Everything went well. They had a great run.
So why should people see the show?
It's a real testament to thinking for yourself, and it's very relevant in the manner in which we fall victim to the ideologies that we become passionate about, and becoming too embroiled in this one path of life and forgetting to think and step back and feel about what we're doing also, remembering our humanity and each other, and remembering that, you know, we're here to help each other out along with our ideologies, these things that we're, you know, these cults of thought that we end up falling into are just as damaging as the cults of lack of thought that some people also fall into. And so it's important, it helps us remember that it's important to take a step back and breathe and feel.
What's interesting based on what I hear you saying, so there's certainly comic aspects of this.
Oh, yes.
But it also seems that there's a message to it also,
Yeah,
based on,
it's not an obvious message. And this piece is very much, has the feeling of a serious think piece as done by the Muppets.
I love that.
And so
By the
it's,
way, that's a great description of it, serious.
yeah, right.
So people should see this if they love the Muppets or they like serious issues, Voltaire, they can, put them both together. How's it like, you mentioned Peter's best friend. Now,
Yes.
he wrote this, is that correct?
He did.
Has this been done elsewhere?
No, this is its first go. It's a world premiere, I suppose, of that. And he wrote most of it in 2016, and then we came back to it recently in 2018 and 19 and reread it, and then he wrote a new bit at that point. The second act is a 4-act play, and the second act he wrote as a new thing just this past year or so. And so it's been at 2 very different points in his life when he wrote significant chunks of the play.
Well, it's exciting, so it's kind of evolving, and if it clicks now, then it'll hopefully have legs or go elsewhere. That's the goal with it.
Absolutely. I would love to see Peter's work grow and prosper and move on as much as possible.
How's it like working now? So as you're working on this, he's been at the rehearsals.
Some of them, yes, but he's always been just a text away.
Interesting. How's it like working with your best friend, also playwright who's a text away, as opposed to not alive?
Right. It's been amazing. First of all, it's great to have my best friend involved, but second of all, just being able to ask him any questions we need is amazing. And he came in at one point and explained a whole lot to us, because it's a fairly, it doesn't seem so at face value, but it's fairly complex in there, what we're dealing with and unraveling as far as these people are concerned, and the concepts that they're tackling. So we've needed his guidance a bit.
Now, as a director, have you seen the play change from when you started rehearsals or the first reading to 6 weeks later now? Has it changed? How so?
Very much. Well, first of all, the first time we read it, we had a couple different people reading. So the voices have shifted a bit. But also, on the page, it's one way, and when we stand up and start moving around in it, it's completely different. And so there's so much more movement than you think is going to be there. There's some action that you don't quite get when you read it, and then it moves in front of you, and you're like, oh, that's what that was. Okay. And so it's just, not only has, of course, the play come alive, but also it started to move, and we've unraveled a great deal of fun.
Now, aside from Peter being there or helping you with a text away, the actors, again, I know all four of them, and they're really talented folks.
Mm-hmm.
Have they contributed to how the play has evolved or changed? Do you let them in on the process?
Very much so. Yes, it's been very important to have their voices involved, and they're so good at what they're doing anyway that you can't not have a lot of ideas flying around with this crowd. But then to be able to step in and say, all right, what about this and what about this, and have them go, awesome, good, and then what about this and this, it's been really nice. Their comfort with what they're doing is so relaxing to be around.
It seems, just listening to you, which is kind of cool, that you're having fun with this also, though.
Yes.
Or is this something you look forward to doing more in the future?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. This one's been a little hectic. I'm wearing a lot of hats in this show.
Well, especially anything, first of all, at BB Theater, anything with Sublime,
yes.
you're going to be wearing a lot of hats, you know.
Yes.
And I don't think people kind of appreciate that, Rachel, you know, that they'll come to the theater, they'll just see a finished production,
Mm-hmm.
and they realize the finished production is your actors, you, Peter, a couple other people, and that's it, putting this whole thing together. A lot of work.
Yes. And my cast and crew are amazing, and they've done so much and so well, but it's just been us. We've had a few designers, but not as many as we would like, and it's just been a lot. And they've been such champions about it. And we've gotten everything done. We've got a good show, and it's really exciting.
And let's go back to the show then. So if folks want to see it, and I just told you off there that my plan now, since I don't have rehearsal, I think, on Thursday night, is to get
Good.
there. But people can get there. And actually, I think the recommendation should be to get tickets in advance, because if you
Mhm.
mentioned the BB Theater is not one of the largest theaters in town.
No.
How many seats?
I believe they can fit 42, 44?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. It's not big. And so if it's going to sell out, it'll sell out pretty quick. But it's also really nice to have that small of a theater. Seeing something like this so up close is kind of important. And it's just, I think, the small theaters are the better way to go.
Now, do you know in terms of the website, do you know Stephen's website on the Sublime?
I don't know an actual website. The website for getting tickets
Right.
is troublemaker.brownpapertickets.com.
Okay, so people can get tickets. It's brown paper. Repeat it again.
Troublemaker.brownpapertickets.com.
And this is for a show that's going to be running this weekend and next weekend.
Yes.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Encourage people to see it. Do you see it after this run is done? What do you see happening with the show? Do you see it going elsewhere?
I'm not certain. I don't know. I hope so, certainly. But I haven't heard Peter say anything about looking at publishing. But I think, like I said before, is always my hope that anything of Peter's will grow and move on to new things.
Could you see this being done on a full size theater?
Sure, I think any show can be done in either a full size or a small theater, technically speaking, but it would certainly present some challenges on a larger stage as well.
So that'd probably be interesting for you to take it from where it is now
Mm-hmm.
and then revisit it a year, 2 years later,
Yes.
and to do a 350 stage, seat
Right.
theater or 500.
Yes, it would be interesting. Peter writes for Black Box Theater. That's where at Appalachian State, that's what our main training was a small black box theater. It was also our classroom. It was where pretty much all the shows were done, all the improv shows, everything was done in this tiny little black box theater that we all took classes in. And so all of his writing is done pretty much from that perspective of having a tiny little black box theater to perform in. And so there's a lot of minimalist set going on, a lot of minimalist tech in his shows. And so it would be interesting to blow it up into a full-size stage / house scenario.
Now, one of the, I guess, challenging things you had to do for this as director is you casted also, is that correct?
Yes.
You were involved in the casting. How many people did you have come out for it? Do you remember?
We did not audition.
Oh, okay.
Because it was such a small show and it kind of went up really fast, it was decided and kind of went up pretty fast, we didn't do auditions for it. So I asked.
Because again, I'm amazed at the quality of the people you got
Yes.
for this show. It's just really talented folks, and so people are
Yes.
in for a treat. Where do you see, forgetting this play, where do you see Rachel McCrain going in the future? In other words, do you want to continue directing, or do you have any other plans to direct anything?
I would love to keep directing. I don't have any specific plans at the moment. I've been speaking, I've been talking about some ideas with some companies, with Attic Salt and Jeff Catney's, and with Steve at Sublime, and different places and stuff, but there's nothing solid as of yet. But I would continue, certainly.
Do you have anything in particular you'd like to direct? If you could have a dream play or a dream thing you'd like to put up, have you ever thought of that?
Yes, I have several plays.
Other one than the one you did in junior high school or high school, that role.
Right.
What plays would you like to do? If anybody's listening.
Several Shakespeare plays. I'd love to do The Tempest. I would love to do Othello. And there's others as well, certainly, but those are probably those are right up there at the top of the list.
Now this one must have been very exciting too. That I guess I don't know how it evolved, but when Stephen asked you to direct this was that what happened? Stephen asked, how did you wind up in this play with Sublime's blessing?
Oh, Stephen and I have been talking about directing for a long time, and it just kind of worked out timing-wise for Stephen and for me and for Peter, that Peter had written this play, and we brought it to Stephen's attention, and then there was a time slot for us to do the play, and it all just kind of worked out and clicked into place. It also meant that we kind of had to get everything ready in a hurry to get started, but it was really exciting and pretty exhilarating to know that of all the plays that I would start with, it was one of Peter's.
And what's a perfect mesh too is not only this particular play you're starting with, but also at the theater you're starting with and at the company. Because if ever there seemed to be a perfect place for this to be, it's at not only the BB Theater, but also something involved Stephen Samuels, who was just almost like this was written for him to be involved in somehow.
Yeah.
And so he's quite the person to work with.
Yeah.
What's his role in this play?
Producer.
Okay.
He's running the box office for us, but he's been the producer.
Okay. And again, that's to the compliments of Stephen, you, everybody with the Sublime Productions, is that you kind of do it all. It's not like you're working with a staff of 20.
Right.
A staff of 2 or 3.
Yes.
Who's your stage manager? Do you have a stage manager?
Sort of. There is a stage manager that we had to kind of get at the last minute, and she can't do the first weekend of the show. So I'm kind of sharing it with, I have a production manager, Art Moore.
Okay,
and
great.
He's been helping me out. He's running the lights and sound this weekend and kind of helping out with a little bit of stage management, and then she'll jump in the second weekend.
Okay. Art Moore, also very talented local actor. Anyway, Rachel, I'd like to thank you for being my guest the second half hour of the Blainesworld show.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, especially because I'm now can figure out I'm going to try to see the show next Thursday night. And again, the show is
Good Night, Troublemaker.
It's also tonight and
Saturday.
And Saturday night, also next weekend, and we hopefully you can get to see it. I'd like to also thank Amy Prisnash, my producer, and you folks for watching us on Facebook. Hopefully You can join us a regular time Wednesday at 9 a.m. here on the new WPVM in Asheville, North Carolina, and we look forward to seeing you then.